Hi everybody, welcome to Algebra 1. Today we're going to be talking about parts of the expression. To begin with, we are going to be looking at different terms that are necessary in order to understand the different parts of the problems that we do. The first term that we're going to discuss is the coefficient. By coefficient, all we mean are the numbers in front of the variables. Remember, when we say the numbers in front of the variables, those numbers are attached by multiplication. If you look at the example down below, you'll see the arrows pointing to both the 3 and the 8. Both the 3 and the 8 are attached to some letters, some variables, so those are our coefficients. We have 3 and 8. Notice that we're not writing the letter with it, we're just writing the numbers. Next up are the variables. It's great that we're talking about them, but it would probably be good to also define them. So by variables, what we mean is a letter that represents a number. So going back to that same example, we're pointing to that 3x and 8y again, but this time, instead of looking at the numbers, we're looking at the letters. A variable is always going to be the letter. So our variables above are x and y. The constant is one that you've probably heard in science class. A constant is just a number all by itself. It's a number that never changes because there's nothing attached to it. Don't forget to always take whatever sign is in front of it. So that negative is attached to the 7, so our constant is -7. Our final term that we're going to discuss are the terms. It's great saying that word over and over, but you need to have a good understanding of where that letter or that term comes from. The terms are the individual pieces separated by plus, minus, or equal signs. So if we look at the example that we're given, the 3x is one term. That plus 8y is my second term. The -7 is the third term. Now we're going to go ahead and flip to the back side of your paper to work on one of the problems. Let's start with number 2. What I like to do is I like to first circle all of my individual pieces so I can clearly see what I'm working with. So the first chunk of this one is a 3a. Then I have a -1/2 b. I have an 8, and I have a 4c. Now I'm going to go through and read the questions. Sometimes it's helpful to write yourself little love notes off to the side. For example, I might say that variables are a letter. So that way, when I'm looking back at the problem, I don't have to get confused about the different terms I'm dealing with. I know variables are letters, so that's what I'm pulling out. I see there is an A, a B, and a C. Letter B is asking for terms. These are the pieces. So again, I'll write myself a little note above so that way I can remind myself that I'm looking at the pieces. Nice that I circled it too, because now I can clearly see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 individual pieces. So there's 4 terms in this equation. Letter C is referring only to the second term. So we're only looking at that -1/2 b. And then it's asking for the coefficient. Remember that this is a number. It's not a letter, it's a number. So if we look at the number for the second term, we see that there's a 1/2. We must not forget that there's also a negative sign. So it's actually a -1/2. Finally, the last thing we're going to talk about are the constants. Remember, the constants are the guys who are all alone. So if we look up here, the only number that is all by itself is an 8. So that constant is an 8. Now we're going to flip back to the front side of the paper. I have a whole bunch of words written here, so why don't you go ahead and hit pause? That way you can copy down all the different operation words. This list is not fully complete, but at least it gives you an idea of the most common ones that you will be seeing. So hit pause and copy these all down. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed copying them all down. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these words and we're going to figure out how they apply to the problems that we're working on. So let's flip to the back side again. The second examples on here, the second set of examples are asking us to write an algebraic expression. So when you look at number 3, you see the words 7 more than x. When you're looking at more than, if you need to flip back to the front side of your paper to see which word more than falls into, you would see that it falls into the turnaround word, meaning when you write it, you're going to flip things around. The arrow's telling us that it's also addition. So 7 more than x is a plus sign. You could write it either way. You could say 7 plus x, or you can say x plus 7, because the rules of math tell us that you can add in any order. Looking at number 4, it says the difference of x and 5. Again, if you flip to the front, you can double check your math here, but the difference is referring to subtraction. So if it's the difference of x and 5, you would have an x, you would have a 5, and you're subtracting them. Number 5 is getting a little bit more complicated now. It has one of my favorite words in it. It has the word quantity. As soon as you see quantity, you need to start thinking parentheses. It does have another operation word in there of times. So remember that times means multiply. So 2 times the quantity of x plus 2, you have 2. You're timesing it times something in parentheses, and what that is x plus 2. So you have x plus 2. Now remember, us mathematicians can be a little bit lazy at times, and so we don't always want to write the multiplication symbol in here. So a lot of times you may see it written as 2 parenthesis x plus 2. You just have to know that whenever you see a 2 in front of something or a number in front of an operation symbol or a variable, that's always going to mean multiplying. Number 6 looks like it's really, really similar, but it's not really. Number 6 does not have the word quantity in it. So when we look at this, we have 3 times, remember that's multiply, c plus 5, so there's a plus. So we have 3 times c plus 5. Again, us mathematicians are crazy. Instead of saying 3 dot c, we would just write 3c plus 5. Either way is correct, though. Feel free to complete any of the other parts of these notes that's not already completed for you, or hit pause or rewind to go back to parts that are a little bit confusing. I've also already posted a fully completed copy of today's notes that you can go back and look at as well. If you have any questions, don't forget to ask me or Mr. Vargas or Mrs. Rahimi, who's located in 2013. Thanks, and see you soon.